what's up everyone, Kevin here. In this video, I want to talk to you guys about how to find the perfect beginner park snowboard. With a park snowboard, it should make everything about the terrain park easier. It should make riding switch easier. It should make doing presses easier. It should make your ollies easier, and just overall make you a better park snowboarder. But not every park snowboard is made the same. Some are going to be better for more advanced tricks, and each park board really has different strengths. So in order to find the perfect one for you and for beginner snowboard tricks, I'm going to try to give you guys the best advice. Starting with the most basic thing about the snowboard, and this is really what makes it easy to ride in either direction, is that the snowboard is the exact same going towards the tail as it is going towards the nose. So the shape of the snowboard is completely twin, and this just makes switch riding so much easier. Landing switch, learning spin tricks, all that kind of stuff. That's going to make it easier having a completely twin board. The next really basic thing to look for in a beginner park snowboard is the flex. So for a beginner park board, you want a board that's easy to flex, because for doing butter tricks or presses on features, you want it to be as easy as possible, and you actually want the board to help you to do that. So this board here is the Capita Indoor Survival, and I would say the flex on this is like a 4 out of 10. And that soft flex means that when I put my weight over the tail, this is gonna easily flex and allow me to press onto the tail. It's even gonna make it easier for getting ollies and nollies, because you're going to be able to flex the board that much easier. The downside of a stiffer snowboard is that it's going to make it really hard to get into those presses. One of my first park boards was really stiff, and it was like a nightmare to press, and I really didn't get good at butters until I got a softer flexing park snowboard. The next thing you want to look for in a beginner park snowboard is the camber profile. And this one sounds a bit complicated, but it's actually very easy. There's only 2 things you need to look for. One is that majority of the snowboard's profile is going to be positive camber. Positive camber basically means that the middle of the board is going to be the highest point, and then as you go towards the tips of the board, it's going to get lower. And then once you get towards the tips of the board, you either want some flat camber or even reverse camber. Flat camber means that the positive is going to end early and then it's going to go straight, or if you get a reverse camber board, the contact point here is going to be rising up out of the snow earlier. And with that camber profile, you're going to get 2 things. One is you're going to get some stability and also some energy out of the board from the positive camber. The flat or reverse camber towards the tips is going to make your board a lot more catch free. For park, this is really important, because if you're making quick turns up to a box or up to a jump, you don't want your tail to feel catchy. You want it to feel like it's catch free, and you can do those quick turns effortlessly. The next thing to keep in mind with a beginner park board is the price. And for a beginner park board, you really don't want to spend too much money. I would say at the maximum, you want to spend $600 American. And then at the low end, you probably don't want to go below $350. If you're towards the lower end, then you're going to get a park board that may have some like heavier woods in it, but that's okay, because those woods are also going to give you some more stability and also some more pop, because they're typically stronger. With the lower end park board too, you're probably going to get an extruded base rather than centered. The downside with extruded is it can get damaged a little bit easier. And then if you spend a little bit more money, you'll get a centered base, which is a stronger base, but one that you do have to wax more often. There's also lots of different park boards out there to choose from. I'd also recommend just finding a board that you're stoked on the way that it looks. I know that some people will say like it doesn't matter, but when I saw this board, I thought it looked like a fun board, something when you're in the park, it's inspiring, gets you kind of amped up for learning tricks. And this one does have all the specs I was looking for, plus with like a fun graphic that I think is some cool artwork. Another thing to consider, and this is a bit more technical and a little bit advanced, but you also want to consider the side cut radius of the snowboard. And what that basically is, the edge of your snowboard, the shape of this line, if you were to extend it, it would go all the way around and into a circle. And the lower the number of the side cut radius, the smaller the circle, which then translates into how quickly you can make turns. If your board's edge was like really just directly straight, then your side cut radius number is going to be really big and make that giant circle, something that wouldn't be good for park. But for beginner park riders, you want a board that's going to turn quickly naturally. So your side cut radius, you want it to be a smaller number, something that draws that small circle and something that allows you to make those quick turns. And the final thing to mention is you really want to get a park snowboard that is the right size for you. When looking at boards online, there's going to be a size chart that really matches the size of the board to your weight. So that's something to consider. For me, I'm about 200 pounds. This board's a 158. And if there's like a range of boards that my weight would be good for, I would typically lean towards a more smaller size snowboard for the park. A smaller board is just going to make all the tricks easier. If you go too small, you're going to lose that stability. So you definitely want to do that. So stay in your size range on the sizing chart. But if you go too big, then it's also going to make it harder to turn, more heavy for getting up into the air. Finding the right size board is really important, and for your boot size as well. So I actually ride a wide park snowboard, and I actually prefer a wide board over just a normal width board because for your boot size, you don't want your toes or your heels dragging in the snow. So if your snowboard boot size goes above a 10, I would just go for a wide board. That way your toes or heels aren't going to drag in the snow. A quick recap, when you're looking for that beginner park board, get one that has that twin shape, identical in either direction, making it really easy for learning switch. Find a board that's a softer flex, something around a 4, so that when you're learning butters and presses, it's just gonna be so much easier. And then find a board that has that profile, that has some positive camber in the center, that either goes to flat or to rocker towards the tips, making the board more catch-free for those quick park turns. If you guys have any more questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll put a link to this board in the description if you want to check it out. Have fun out there in the park, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.